Welcome to AI and Faith. We are a community of expert technologists, faith leaders, and professionals working to bring the wisdom of the world's ancient faith traditions to the ethical development and use of artificial intelligence. Thanks for joining the conversation.
Thank you so much for being here, Nicoleta. I very much appreciate it. I wanted to say congratulations on the G100 Club. That's very, very exciting. And you are a great example for women globally, for sustainable banking and investment specifically, but also in general as a female in fields that are not tend to not be female heavy. So I really appreciate that. Being a female in mathematics, actually, similarly. And so thank you so much for being here and chatting with us, especially with the theme of AI and faith being AI and faith at the global scale. So I'm really excited to hear about Switzerland and kind of what you've been doing with your work in general. So I guess to start, my first question is, can you talk about your experience as a faith-based person working in organizations that are usually viewed as non-faith places?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Myla, first of all, for having me. It's such an honor, actually. And we should thank you, women, because you are also filling those gaps that we are looking so much to fill in and to balance. It means the proportion of women in some sectors of activity, which we are brilliant. In fact, women are all, and history showed. Have shown women are brilliant all over the history. It's just that we do not still have the recognition and the place and the doors open that we deserve to, and we have to fight too much, but we do it. So thank you. You are one of our doors open to this field.
And that is what excited me about doing this interview with you, was that you're kind of a good female role model, which I think I'll ask a little bit later, but you're a good female role model for women everywhere and in spaces that don't tend to have a lot of females. So I do really, really appreciate that for sure. But yeah, I guess I am kind of, about the question.
Yeah, the question you ask is very important, actually, because I would say it is the nexus on everything. It's the life of a person who has a faith. And it's living in a society which does not necessarily share same faith, or even when it shares, it still separated the private faith from the public space where we interact with the others. And I think this is very important to understand the contours, the limits of what we can do and what we cannot. But as someone who actually lived in a dictatorship where it was forbidden, even was a life-threatening situation to speak about your faith, I learned to live my faith independently of any context, and it helps you actually then to be able to live that also in a context where you live surrounded with people who have different worldviews, not necessarily faith, but just different worldviews, So to me, it is about an verticality, an internal verticality between your values and your actions. And if at a certain point that does means to make some choices, it's up to the person of faith to make the choices to align with her faith and to accept the price for that. But in reality, as I said, I lived in a dictatorship where it was forbidden even to pronounce the name of God, to wear a cross was just like big no-go, was very dangerous. I learned that in fact, faith, it's at least for me as a Christian Orthodox, it's the union of God, fulfilling and looking to realize this union with God during our lives. And you can do it anywhere in any context. If we in the dictatorship, we were able to do it with, so that means it is possible. And I saw people around me who paid really a high price to do it. But they did it. And I would say if we succeed to be as I mean, I do remember when I came in Switzerland, and that was the irony, because I was an economist. I'm an economist, but there's a Christian Orthodox economist, female, who through a context found herself to be a teaching assistant and a master student in the Protestant faculty of theology in Lausanne. So you can say this was absolutely not in my career plan, but very enriching for me, both personally and professionally. And I have this rule from all the time: do not speak about my faith like necessary to go out and to kind of say, oh, I'm Christian Orthodox, look what I do. It is very interior faith. So we build an interior kingdom, if you want, a life with God. And of course, while I was in the faculty of theology, there are questions quite often come to me. Oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I always try to discern what was exactly the meaning of that question. Was really a desire to learn, was really a desire to discover new faith, or was just curiosity, or was a kind of proselytism to try to make me change, or something like that. And depending on the context, I would talk or not, But I think you can, as a person of faith and very deep faith, evolve very well in a non-faith institution, and at a certain point, it's up to you to make the calls for eventually dilemma that could come out of this faith, not non-faith.
Yeah, no, the idea of being able to live your faith in any context, I definitely feel. I'm a Jewish female mathematician or computational biologist, and my Judaism definitely influences a lot of what I do, but depending on the space that I'm in, I will say that or not. I'm not, generally I don't feel persecuted for it, so I don't feel like I cannot say it most times, but I do understand that there are times where it's just not relevant, or you feel like you are being persecuted. So for sure, context matters, and I'm sorry you had to live through the dictatorship, but that is a really valuable lesson of we can be faith-based in any context, as you were alluding to. Yeah. I guess getting at that a little bit more, why do you do what you do, right? What drove you to be the economist? And maybe if there was some faith influence in there, that would be interesting as well.
Yeah, actually, no, it was the philosophy. I loved philosophy and mathematics. I loved two things in my high school. I love philosophy and mathematics. And it happens that both professors who were teaching philosophy and mathematics were often bringing as exemplification the real world and the economic world examples, And then I really felt that actually economics was the field where I could mix mathematics with philosophy. Really.
Yes.
Apply.
Yeah.
And I applied mathematics, applied philosophy equals economics.
Interesting. Because actually, interestingly, so I also actually majored in mathematics and philosophy. And so my application is in Jewish theology specifically. And then I actually also did pre-medical. And so to combine all of those things, I actually do natural language processing. And I think for me, language is really where we combine more that pure space, I guess I would say, of mathematics and philosophy with how we speak. It's at how do we think about the world. And then I really specifically focus on what questions do we ask and how do we ask a good question. And it's a very philosophical question. And I do that in biomedicine, but also bridging out. So I totally agree with you in this idea of combining all these things. I love math and philosophy as well. So definitely a kinship there. Yeah, I guess. So how do you think, so you work in economics, right? This idea of money and investing and other things around that. And I'm not an expert in economics, so feel free to add any more. But I'm curious, how do you think your faith, or just faith in general, influences how we spend and invest our money?
Yeah, I think this is a very, very good question, because most of the time, and actually when I see people that they ask me, what are you doing? Usually I define myself as a scholar, because I really have the mind of a scholar, of a scientist, someone who is still exploring these fundamental questions about human life, the lenses I have, like economics, philosophy, mathematics, and now finance, because this is part of the big economic world, is I would say that most of the time people ask me, what are you doing? I'm a scholar. What are you studying? Economics and religion, finance and religion. People said, but they have nothing in common. Why would you study that? In fact, what are you studying? These kind of things. And it's true that they seem very different and even opposite. But in reality, if you go a little bit deeper, you see that there are influences. Just from a scientific point of view, if you look to economics and finance, you would see the very first text we have on this are in religious text. Even in sustainable investment, the oldest text we have on sustainable economy, sustainable development, you have it actually in Torah. In Torah, it's full of that, including how you have to put your manage your agriculture, your money, your field, everything. So it is already a sustainable development based society, which is described in Torah. So there is no difference from this point of view. So both fields, and religion and economics and finance, have roots and common roots, and they influence each other a lot. This from a historical point of view. And now, at a personal point of view, I would say that, how could we think that somebody would invest money without considering, I didn't say it has an impact, but without considering his worldview, his faith, religion, even from a community perspective. For example, you are a Jewish, somebody else says, I'm not really very practical, but I'm in the community. When you invest your money, you will be infused by the principles of investing this as your community. Even yourself, or somebody would say, I'm not necessarily following the 135 commandments,
650,
150 commandments, and this is it. So we are still all influenced by this. This is one thing, which I would call an indirect influence. And the direct influence is when you really have a relationship with God and you develop it and you live. That comes like a condition, like in mathematics, to have an alignment. You need a necessary and sufficient condition to realize that. So that means every decision and every action needs to be aligned with that goal. And I would say it comes naturally. It shouldn't be an effort, or it should be clear. If we are clear in our faith and in what we want to have in this relationship with God, and what kind of humans we want to become in this relationship of God, and as a result of this relationship with God, I would say better. It's very clear. You don't need to be very, make sophisticated and pros and cons. Oh, this is right for me, this is not right for me. So it has an impact. And in my research, actually, I did quite a lot of research on the impact of religious beliefs in the workplace. This is even very important again, because it has to be everything you do at work, even you where you do now, and me where I do. They are at a certain point actions that come as a call. Are this? It's naturally questioning spontaneously. As this is not really. I wouldn't go along this path, because it will take me in a place where I'm not anymore aligned with God. You see, so, and you make the choice to remain on your trajectory, like a very faithful star, who is there on a trajectory. And that's so whatever how we take this relationship between the world of economics, finance, and faiths, they are necessarily related, either as fields of studies, either like social phenomena, or and then I speak that at a level of the nations, and then at individual level, again, it is very interdependent. If again, this is a real and authentic relationship with God, because there might be, but that's not our discussion, and that's not, we just assume that it is about an authentic relationship, faith, yes.
Yeah, so I actually totally agree with you in a lot of ways. And I've never thought about it around money and finance, just because that's not what I do. But I've actually been asked the exact same questions, right? Why are you a mathematician or scientist and religious? And I actually think they're exactly the same as you just said, right? We choose our axioms and then we build a society based on that. And so I always say that an axiom in religion may be like I believe in God or God exists, right? And an axiom in mathematics, right, are all the ones that we have. And so I completely agree with you that they're exactly the same. And I find it really funny that people struggle with that, right? Because I'm like, oh, it's so simple when somebody asks me that question. And you're also right that when I invest or when I do things, especially as a part of a community, we together think about the Jewish principles of tzedakah, right?
Yes.
Giving money and charity. And on top of that, right, even if I'm not actively thinking about it, because it's so much of who I am, right, in the workplace or when I'm investing, it definitely is just there. So it's interesting. It seems like your work is also helping us be able to see that much, much more concretely, even if it's implicit or subconscious when we actually do it. So that is very fascinating.
It was one of my desires, actually. In my research, I often do that. I give a visibility to invisible phenomena. In my PhD, for example, I studied the altruism in the workplace. Because altruism exists in all workplaces, and it is what makes these workplaces be more efficient. If we calculate how much altruism of employees brings to companies, they would be amazed. Actually, I have in my PhD approximated. It is incredible how important it is, altruism. And what I wanted to do is to give a figure, to say, oh, this is altruistic behavior in your company given by the employees. And the employees also they do it, but they don't know either. So this is this is your altruistic contribution to the company. And by doing that, in fact, we recognize the value, because you can't value what you can't measure and what you can't see. You see, that was the goal. I started just to make to understand how I came to study altruism in economics. It's because I challenged the assumption of economic models of Homo economicus, that Homo economicus meaning the human, like behavioral, universal behavioral axiom, be like, and all humans behave like this. They are selfish. They are maximizers, they are lazy, and they look for instant gratification with very low cost. So these are kind of the big four laws, natural laws that will govern Homo economicus theory. And I challenged them. I said, that's not true. I worked in banking. I worked with people. No, people are not all selfish. They are not all maximizers. They are not lazy. They love to work. How you see? So I wanted to, at a certain point, to offer. I wanted to offer a counter perspective, where which would be more realistically and close to the real behavior of people in their workplaces. Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. And I'm glad somebody is pushing the boundaries of what it means to be a human in society, and that we're all not, as you said, selfish, maximizers, all of these behaviors. But actually, and a lot of that's right, influenced by faith, right, is kind of, I think, what you're getting at. Exactly.
It came after. It came in the sense that I saw that actually religions had a better evaluation, if we want to see, an appreciation of the human nature. So I saw that where economics and even psychology were still looking for principles and foundation, religions were spoken about human nature, about the capabilities of the human beings in a more accurate way.
And positive. Yeah. So I guess so faith, right, is one piece of our AI and faith. And I guess I'm curious, how does AI influence this, and how has that potentially changed over time, as you've kind of been doing everything and AI has been blossoming more and more?
Yeah, I'm so happy AI and faith is blossoming, because when first David Brenner, our chair board, contacted me, I was working at Princeton University on altruism, AI, and religion. So it was exactly the nexus, the nexus of that. And why I came to this community and I started to love it deeply is because it really offers a place where you can't discuss um, um, with experts. So it's an agora. I always use this and I love it. It's an agora where you can meet with experts with different backgrounds and discuss topics and present your research with ideas that sometimes you have more difficulty to put them in an academic program. Until it becomes an academic program, you have to change. At Princeton, I have the chance to be able to do it. I even gave a lecture about that. It's on how to combine altruism, AI, and religion in the workplace. But it's true. You don't find many places where you can do that. So the idea to create this community where people can come to discuss and exchange and learn. For me, this is it. This is a learning community with a huge learning experience, and but also a place where we learn, but we also share this knowledge with the others. So at a certain point, we are a hub where anyone from this society or from any religious background or without religious background, or just spirituality, or person who's agnostic or whatever, but has these questions that say, I think that the generalization of the introduction of AI in our lives, it's posing us very new ethical dilemma and questions, and I want to discuss this with some people who are involved, who are in the heart of these things. You see, so this is it. I think it is now we are at a stage where we are already a group of more than 150 experts, and we have now regular newsletters and town halls and agoras, for which I really thought, because the idea is to engage the community. I mean, it's very nice to have members, but at a certain point to extract from these members the honey of their knowledge and make it useful for the society, you see. So this is the idea, but definitely it is a place where whoever it's interesting in the intersection of AI and faith is welcome. And I would say, how could not be someone interested in this kind of topics? Because AI is everywhere. I mean, we already live in a world run by algorithms. We are already algorithms or an extension. We start to behave as an extension of these algorithms. So I think it is very, very important that we discuss about that, so we can also participate in a more informed way to the debates in society. Because something I also observe, people are between exaltation and completely rejection, of AI, without really a way to reflect on this position. So I generally say, don't like we talk about from an opinion point of view. Said, no, when I exchange something, it's not my opinion. No, it's based on science. It's based on what I read. It's of course limited to my own cognitive capacity of acquiring knowledge about AI, but it's not an opinion about, I wake up this morning and this is what I think about AI. No, I think we need and we have the obligation to inform ourselves about AI before forming any kind of opinions or discussing and debating. Me, I do it for self-respect. I mean, I want to know, I want to inform myself, and we have now the possibility. So, and when I attend this kind of meetings and at AI and Faith, or when I meet people like you, for example, would bring me a completely different perspective, you know, something I didn't think about it. That's so enriching, you see. So that's the goal, that we learn together, we become wiser together, and we contribute to the debates in society on AI in a more informed way. And we talk a lot about the need of regulations, or how we react to all these introductions, you know, of AI. Recently, I just read, and this will be confronted sooner or later, somebody who was fired because didn't want to use AI at work, and other people are fired if they use it. So you can imagine that if you are not informed about this, how you could, even in your workplace at a certain point, start a discussion with the company, said, oh, this is how I see the role of AI in society, or even in my life as an employee, not, you know. So it's very important. But thank you. Yeah. And thank you for being in our community.
Yeah. I joined actually last year, so I'm pretty new, towards the end of last year, and I really enjoyed it. I agree with you that it's very much a place of learning, and I appreciate that everyone comes to this community wanting to learn from everyone, and that everyone's faith is just accepted, and it's a place that you can learn from. And so that piece is very, very nice. I do love sitting in spaces with lots of diverse groups of people, and this is one I really, really appreciate from that perspective, for sure.
Yeah. And it's different faiths and different backgrounds, because you, for example, are mathematics, philosophy, and Jewish, and you will have people who are not necessarily academics, but they come from a professional experience, like somebody who worked 30 years in robotics, you know, and who is a Christian, but with not so much theology behind, but a person who is aware of the challenges. So again, something different, you know. Or we have a rabbi, so he will be more. I was on an interview with him, and very interested to learn more about the biblical foundations, you know, of AI. We had Muslims, we had Hindus, we had all religions, and this is really, because in the end, and why I think it's important, and as you said, to have this, because in the end, it's about the human being, it's about the human nature. And this is one of the biggest challenge of AI. And we say it has an anthropological, in my research in AI and faith, what I do, it's an anthropological approach for AI ethics and debate. And this is what we change. That's why we talk about consciousness, sentience, personhood. The introduction of AI, it's really challenging us for the first time, and sending us back to this fundamental philosophical questions about our who we are, you know. At a certain point said, oh, somebody can download your brain or whatever. Oh, that means I am there, I'm that thing. So the who we are, it's back on the table, I would say, on the 21st century. And it will be the century of self-knowledge again, a rediscovery of our own human nature.
Yeah, actually, right before this, I did a book review of God, Human, Animal, Machine by Megan O'Giblin, and she exactly asks all those questions. And I totally agree with you in every possible way about all the philosophical questions, and I love thinking about them. Yeah, so continuing kind of with some questions. I'm curious, so you do study kind of sustainable banking, right, and that type of idea. I'm curious, what does faith say about sustainable banking? So you started a little bit earlier about it around agriculture. I know Judaism talks a little bit about that. I guess from your Eastern Orthodox perspective, I'd be curious, or just kind of faith in general that you've been thinking about around this topic. That's a little more specific to what you're working on.
Yeah, actually, I will talk in general about the relationship to money, because religions, this is what they do, you know, and banking, investment are all about that. So it is about the relationship with money that we have, and religions here, they are very clear, you know, and this is a big lesson that we kind of forget all the time at all ages. It is that money, it's a tool, it's a mean for something, but it's never part of intrinsic part of the value of the human being, or has any relationship with human and God. You know, it is a tool. it really belongs to the sphere of human activities here, but that doesn't mean but as any activity of humans here have an impact on the relationship with God. So it's like it's like a perpendicular, the vertical with God and the horizontal with the world of substances to live, to produce and to so where money it became money. We didn't call it money before because we had products where money, but this is the idea that at a certain point there is something that we give the value, a value that allows us to run our businesses in an efficient way. Was from a practical point of view, exchange for thesaurizations and other things. But this is so in from a religious point of view, it's very clear. It is a tool. It's never bad or wrong. So this, I think, it's very important to, at least for the world of banking and finance and economics generally, to understand that, because sometimes we have on the sides of religions the tendency to moralize, the finance sector, the economics, the profit making, and so on. Oh, this is so evil. It's bad. Even in Romanian, we had a word that would say money, it's the eye of the devil, something like that. So money was quite often related to this evil, negative thing. But in reality, if you really read the text, the sacred text, and not their interpretation, say this is a tool, this is a mean. And the idea is what kind of relationship human being established with the money. And this is a tool between a master and servant. So who is the master and who is the servant? So when human being is the master of the money, that's perfect. When the money becomes to be the master of the human being and human just a servant, that's problematic. And I would say keep this in mind. And now let's see the banking system and everything we have in the world. See, how is this system? It is our servant or it's our master? So you see? So without necessarily going, but I think, and this would be the way if we really want to have a sustainable banking system who is in the service of economy and of people and of sustainable development and of flourishing. This is always what we have to do, to balance this thing and to ask this question: who is the servant? Who is the master? Unfortunately, we lost, if you want, with during the Enlightenment, we had this perspective of the human being who is to flourish. The value of the human being was quite important. Human nature. It's a treatise on human nature. I like mushrooms in Enlightenment. All philosophers wrote about the nature of the human nature, the nature of religion, the nature of money. So everything was thought, in this intersection, but with this idea that about the value of the human life, the dignity of the human being, etc., etc. And that's why we had, in fact, a 20th century where we have recognized the value of the human life, human dignity. But in the economic field, unfortunately, what we did, we lost the philosophical ground. So we started to have a very mathematical way of considering economic phenomena. We jumped from value to price, so which are completely different concepts, But the philosophical background was completely, we can say, one of the last that was like Wilfredo Pareto. We still have that, but from the 1940, 1950, that's already gone, and we were focused on very mathematical model, microeconomics, macroeconomics, which I love mathematics a lot, but at a certain point and this is something I tried to do now, in mathematics, to reintroduce in this equation the value of the human being. That's why I wanted at a certain point to have a valuation of the altruism of people, and to be there, to be considered there, because we can do it. It's like any human phenomenon. If you have the right proxies and the right thinking, you can do it. But we need to bring back the human, the value of the human life and the flourishing of the human life, not only survival. No, we don't, because the meaning of the economics, in fact, economics, that means the way you manage a house, economos, you know, oikos it's the house, and nomos, it's the law. So it was, in fact, oikonomos was the way in antiquity and in late antiquity, we would manage the household, but in a household was comprised everyone, the products, the businesses, the people, the animals, everyone was there. And how we would manage this in a sustainable way, it was already thought, you know, to be like that. But we lost this, and it's very interesting because in antiquity they had a different word for it's for business and business for money. It was krestomasia, and that was really making money out of money. So and that was very bad seen in late antiquity. The aristocrats and the Roman administration, the people, they wouldn't want to be identified with these people who would make money from money, because that was not well seen, you know. I see here kind of a kind of respect, a kind of decency when making money, you know, a decency that people understood that when you make money out of money, something is missing, something is excluded from that. Of course, today we wouldn't say that, because we need these financial markets to support this economy. So say, yes, let's flow as many money as possible, you know. But again, it is about where this money goes and what does it mean to be to have a investment aligned with faith. This is a very important, you know, for I'm in this kind of groups with people who ask this kind of questions. And I think, again, we have all the wisdom in faiths. Either you are a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, a Hindu. We have the wisdom. We know what to do it. And I would, in fact, you know what I do? I encourage a lot of these groups. So go strong, and become a benchmark. Because once you become a benchmark, the market will follow you. But if you always are behind the market, or you are at the margin, like you are very specialized finance. And I said, no, because religions, as I said from the beginning, had sustainable finance principles in their sacred text from thousands of years. So they invented, religions invented sustainable finance. It's not the United Nations with the SDGs or the private sector with the ESGs and etc. Religions, they did it, and they practiced too. They practice, not only it's in the sacred text, but they practice, you know. And you as a Jewish, you know better than anyone, I think.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I guess I never, being somebody who loves language with my natural language processing background, this idea of value versus price, right? Even just thinking about the words, right? We think about our values and what value we have as humans, and that's a very different word than this word of price. And so that is fascinating to me. And in general, right, I think the same trope goes for science, right? As you were saying about economics, where it started in it. And this book that I was saying to you about, it also kind of goes to this idea that a lot of science were people of faith, right? Were from the religions, from the Vatican, from all of those heads of religions that would say, go study science, go learn about the earth. This will help us in our religion. And this disconnect that we've had, as you were talking about, really, it's very interesting that now we're kind of going back to it, right? As you were saying, that AI is making us re-ask all of these questions. And the title actually of my book review is actually a memoir of self-discovery, because at the end of the day, right, that's what it is. It is about self-discovery in a lot of ways.
And
I completely agree.
But this is quite natural. I mean, because this is part of our. That's why I really try to make understand it's anthropological. This is anthropological need. That's why. And every time cultures or phenomena try to eliminate some part of this human anthropology, of course they can't do it. It's just hidden. And when the missing of that part becomes insufferable, it comes back on the front page even harder. So
Yes,
this is because it's part of our human nature. This is what we are. This is an anthropological need. So that's why I still don't understand why some people pushing against, this, because it's just impossible. It will come back.
Yes, I agree. And as we've talked about earlier, right, a lot of it is subconscious anyways. And so even if people don't realize it, they are influenced by the community, and most communities are influenced by some sort of faith at some point in time, whether or not they've traced it back. But
Sorry.
I guess so. No, you're good. So I guess maybe I'll ask two more questions. In general, the theme of this month, as I kind of mentioned at the beginning, is AI and faith at global scale. And so I'm curious, so you've talked about Romania, right, from where you're from. You live in Switzerland now. You've clearly been to the US, right, with Princeton. I guess, how do you see AI and all of these questions kind of at global scale, right? So even just your own work that you do around sustainable banking and other things. Yeah. I think there's a pretty obvious one. Everyone invests in money. Money exists everywhere. But if you can speak a little bit specifically about this idea of the globalness of money and of kind of the work you're doing, and maybe how some of the places you've lived have influenced that and have been different from different places.
Yeah, thank you. This is a very important question. And actually, why just my recent experience at Davos. I attended Davos this year in January 2024, and I shared this with the team. And this was my mantra when I came back and said, guys, we need to think everything at a global scale. Seriously. This is what I said to everyone when I came back. I said, it's good what we do, but I had a certain the feeling that we missed the big meaning of AI and faith at a global scale, So while we really, and I love that we have experts, and we have different diversity, and we have a diversity of backgrounds, diversity of topics, but we didn't have, and we still don't have in AI and faith. And I really work with colleagues to do that, a vision of what it is the main contribution that AI and faith wants to do to the world, So, and you can't do it if you don't think at a global scale and to address global problems. For the simple reason that this is not a territorial problem. This is not a small scale problem. It is a global problem. Of course, at a certain point, you need to start somewhere. But if you don't have the vision, the finality for which kind of problems we want to address, it is very important to address this global scale. And when you do that, what you realize is that the problems you found in your work, they are the same that somebody else found, and they might have actually already some solutions or some things that you can inspire. So when I see globality, I see immediately learning from each other, sharing best practices, sharing best experiences, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel in many ways. There are people who already are doing this. So a global scale, it's about the vision, it's about learning from best practices and best experiences. And third, I would say global scale is impact. Because if we want to do something, we want to have impact. We want to change something. We want to influence the debates on AI and faith. We want to contribute to regulations. We want to contribute to policy, AI policy, etc., etc. But if we don't have a global vision, if we don't learn from you can't have an impact. And if we don't cooperate together, so you can't have an impact. So my experience is everywhere. So I travel all around the world. It's not only Romania and Switzerland and US. Actually, I travel all around the world, Asia, South Asia. And the only thing I can tell you, it's every time you discover, like it's exactly like in the science of the universe. You discover a universe in a universe, and another universe, and another universe. It's an endless. And I think the risk here it's to limit ourselves and to think that we are sufficient, which I really hope we will not have it here in AI and faith, and we always be on this trajectory that we need to integrate more and more actors with different backgrounds to address this global. And the last thing, maybe global scale means also capacity to listening. You know, at a certain point, you need to kind of close your eyes and to listen to the brouhaha of the world, you know, in a detached world, and to say, in fact, what are we going with this, you know, and sharing this with the others. And again, you might find that somebody, people, yeah, it's the same, or some, and others say, oh, but I saw something different. Oh, okay. So this capacity of which I call it, actually, I wrote something about, is the discernment, a lucid discernment, you know. And I think you can't have a lucid discernment if you don't have this global scale perspective of a phenomenon. You just can't have it. At a certain point, you need to detach a little bit and to have this lucid discernment, having this perspective of a vision of the future, learning experience with the others, and togetherness in creating an impact.
Yeah, so I guess then maybe we'll end it there, but I guess I'm curious if you can give us, if you've thought about a vision that you would want, or give us a new goal in relation to this, what would it be for AI and faith, or kind of the community at large?
Yeah, actually, I love this question. I have it when I was 2 years ago in Washington, D.C. by the lady. She is the responsible of employee resource groups from Google. You know, she would ask me if you could see what we would do in Nicoleta. And I said, you know, we need to think everything we discussed today, it will impact generations after us. So I like to do like we do in mathematics, what is the where I want to obtain, and then I figure out back, you know, the equations. So I would say we do the same. What kind of human being we want to see working on this planet in 200 years? Just say 200, not 500. Maybe it's too far because we can't really, I mean, let's say, no, but we can still approximate reasonably, you know, and not going too crazy, you know, in science fiction and so on. But say, what kind of human being, what kind of human being and what kind of society we want to see on this planet in 200 years. Me, what I want, a human being who is pro-social, who is altruist, for sure. This is what I want, you know, a human being who is flourishing, who has capacity to, and capability, in the terms of Amartya Sen, the professor of economics, Amartya Sen, who worked on capabilities. And I think this is a concept that should be used more for people, from people working in AI. Capabilities to flourish, to discover their talents, to grow their talents, to grow their lives, to live their faiths. You see, it's a human-centric society. While AI served, I would say AI serves society, but human-centric. I'm quite a little bit, and I would like to ask you a question. I'm quite challenged by recent readings. I found out the word AI-centric. I said, guys, but AI, it's never centric. AI, it's a tool. How can a tool be centric? I mean, okay, it is the tool with the big DHE. It's the tool of the future. But it can't be centric because it's a tool. It's there to serve. Centric, it's the human. So a human-centric society where we technologies and whatever we will discover in the future will serve this human, you know, for its flourishing in the way it's understanding. And I know it's possible. We have this already in us. And that's why I come back to my anthropological approach. We have already everything here, and we have also the wisdom to take the right decisions. I'm not afraid. I'm not the blindly accepting everything in AI, but I'm not fear of AI. No, this is just a tool like money, like everything else we had in our lives. So at the contrary, look, technology just improved the lives of the human beings so much in so many fields. So if we do it wisely, it will be for the benefit of the humanity.
So I like that. We'll leave it off with human-centric with AI as a tool. And whether that involves faith or other contexts that we have, that will be seen. And I love your question. I am a huge question fan. So we can also leave it off with this question of what kind of society, what kind of human beings do we want to see in 200 or any number of years, right? The future, for what we can state as our vision for now.
Yes.
And I love that so much. That is exactly how I agree and see the world, for sure.
Thank you. I think we don't know that. We kind of try to resolve the problems that AI bring us in terms of dilemmas, new ethical problems, but we kind of try to fix something that it's getting broken by AI. But in reality, that's not the way. The way it is to say what is the vision and just do it and create a system that will serve this vision. If we try to correct a little bit here, to put a little regulation here, because we don't have the vision of the human yet and of the society. And I'm very happy, and I hope you are the young generation and you answer this question, and it will be a great satisfaction for us.
Yeah.
Thanks again for joining us. Stay tuned for more interviews with AI experts from around the world. In the meantime, please subscribe to our channel and like our videos. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and X, formerly known as Twitter.